Namaste. Welcome to the Conscious Convo podcast. I am your host and teacher, Pippa Leslie. I'm here to share everything I learn, see, and channel. This podcast is for the conscious and curious beings who are ready to dive deeper into spirituality. I am so grateful you are here. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're all well and I hope you've been enjoying the previous episodes on the podcast. Today I am with Holly Marie and she is over the water from me. She's in Australia and you all know that's one of my favourite places in the world. So I'm really excited to talk to Holly today. I've just noticed she's got this beautiful koala picture behind her as well. I've just noticed that. I'm like, oh my God.
I do, yeah.
Oh, I love koalas so much. I'm excited to talk to you, Holly, because I know, I made contact with you on email and I've just recently followed you and I think it's divine. Everything's divine, as you know. It's divine how I've just followed you because you have some really powerful, information that I needed to hear the last few days, and it really hit my heart where I needed to, have that information within me. So I know we've just spoken before we press record, but can you just tell the listeners a little bit about you and your journey with spirituality as well?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pippa. It's always exciting to speak to people from my hemisphere. Like we're on this side of the world. We're in a similar time zone, so thank you. I'm Holly Marie or Holly Herbig. I go by a lot of different names. And the work that I do currently is really specializing in human design, which I'm sure we'll get to as part of this podcast episode, but I specialize in one of the energy types within human design, and I have a community of people built out around that, which is really beautiful. But, my work has been really varied. Certainly my journey through spirituality, like most people, has been pretty wild. Like, I don't think that many of us have just a very soft, lovely, sweet, gentle awakening. I very much went through a spiritual awakening through my Saturn return. For those people who are into astrology, it was like in my late 20s. I previously had a business at that time. I owned a big cafe and events business, which was super financially successful, and the business was really successful, but energetically and emotionally, it was horrifically traumatic for me, really, really traumatic, and a lot of power struggles and, emotional violence, and just, it was a really crazy story. And through that, coming out on the other side of that was really where I had my spiritual awakening, because I had no choice. At that point, I was, when you reach those places within yourself where you realize, I'm now so aware of all of these patterns within myself that are completely destructive, that I have zero avenue except to deal with them. Like, I have to now, because it's touching every single part of my life. It's touching my family and my relationships and my health and my sense of self-worth. So that's very much where I was at. And I just kind of dabbled in spirituality to begin with. I did a little bit of meditation, and I started doing a little bit of energy work, and it just evolved. Wherever I found something that resonated with me, I would pursue it for a while as a tool and use that to get access to different parts of myself and see what I could shift, see what I could move, and see what I could heal. And of course, that would lead to an expansion. It's now been just years and years, I think 7 years. And so this is spirituality is just me now. This is just my life's work and my life's expression. But I did eventually move that into being a spiritual business coach. I came from a business background. I wanted to have a space to teach that to people, but I could not ignore the impact of spirituality, energetics, mindset, all those things. And that was wonderful. I really enjoyed doing that until it was done, until it was finished for me, and I didn't want to be interacting with people on that level. And that's when human design came into my life, and I moved in the human design direction. And now I'm kind of working on a side gig, talking a lot more about business again, back into business strategy, business energetics, kind of just doing this very direct conversation about business, cutting through a lot of the illusion. So yeah, it was a very windy sort of journey to end up where I am.
I love that because it's very similar to mine. I've been on my journey for like 7 years, I'd say, but I was 25. And it just went from like, but isn't it funny? It's like your spiritual awakening comes from kind of like rock bottom for most people.
Mm.
You know, I was going through different relationships and I'd left a relationship, and it, the relationship I left at the time wasn't toxic. It just was, I loved him, but it was just, we wanted different things. And it was kind of like, we left in, not like in a bad way, but I kind of thought, my journey was just meant to be. Someone told me to read The Secret, so I watched it instead. And looking back at The Secret now, I know it's very basic, and there's a lot more layers to The Secret that people need to know about. It's a good place to start if you are on, just on your spiritual journey. Even if you are deeply in your spiritual journey, just watch The Secret, because you'll start to see the basics of manifesting. But obviously, my spiritual teacher, Wayne Dyer, always talks about, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. So it's, it's deeper than that. I actually didn't realize till a few weeks ago, Wayne was asked to go on The Secret, on the movie, and be a part of it, and he turned it down.
Interesting.
I only found it out. Yeah, I was like, wow, because I study Wayne's work a lot. Like, I know loads about his family, and I've spoke to his daughter on my podcast last year, and I just, when he said that, I was like, oh wow. So like, kind of like, my suspicions are right, because I thought The Secret's great, I'm not disputing it, but I just feel like they just didn't market it properly. They didn't go into the proper detail of, if you think of an elephant, it'll just appear in your lounge. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Under the layers of your trauma and your worth and your value. And that's something I've been going through, as I've just been speaking to you about, Holly. I've been going through that, the level of my worth and my value and what I have to offer on this planet. And we touched on my human design, and it's definitely something I want to do more of, because I like the fact that, is it human design is linked to I Ching, and there's a few other things as well.
Yeah, human design is actually a combination system. It's known as the science of differentiation. So basically, it's this system that says this is how you're different from everyone else, which is pretty profound in and of itself, because every other system that we have for self-development, for spirituality, for energetics is the opposite. It says, here's how you're similar to other people. Here's how you have resonance with other people. Human design takes the reverse approach and says, this is how you're completely different and you're completely unique. But the system itself is, it's a combination. It's not original. It's a combination of science and spirituality. So we've got, on the spirituality side, we have a lot of astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, the chakra system. And then on the science side, we have epigenetics, biomechanics. We've got like a lot of DNA stuff in there. So I find that human design has become super relevant in the last couple of years, I think, because there's a lot of different access points into it. There's a lot of different lenses that people can come in and say, whoa, I'm really scientifically minded. That makes sense to me. Or I'm really, really spiritually or energetically minded. I can get access in that point as well. So it's a very multi-layered language.
One thing that's coming up for me now as I think about it is, I think I spoke about this a few months ago, is, and you'll probably resonate with this, Holly, is, as a woman on a spiritual journey, we look at all these things like human design, our life path numbers, our astrology, because we're looking to find more about ourselves, aren't we? We are looking for that external thing to find out who we are, why we're here, what's our purpose, what, just to feel like you belong somewhere. And I think human design has probably been the one that actually made me think, it's like the only one that really made me really think that this is actually who I am. Because when I looked at my life path number, I thought, I'm nothing like that, really. There's snippets of it. There's snippets of, it's like when you read the horoscope in the magazines or the newspaper that I used to. It's like, oh, Libra is da 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 da, and I'd look at the Libra sign and I'd go, well, there's like millions of people on the planet who are Libras, and like, so it kind of was generic, where, like you just said, human design is the opposite approach of this is how it is. And that's why I think I was really into not the Western astrology, but the Vedic astrology, because that's the old. And that's why I think a few of my friends who do that, I probably resonated more with that. And that's not to say anyone can go out, you know, I would definitely recommend go and get your human design done, go and get your astrology done, go and have a reading, go find your life path number, have all those things, you know, get your moon sign, your rising sign, because it all adds up. But then, you know, I just want to make this as like a little statement. It doesn't, you know, you are already worthy without all that information, you know, even though it's going to help you feel, you know, more connected to yourself and more connected to who you are. I want you to say without that stuff, you still are worthy and you still matter in this world. So yeah, human design for me was the one that was like, wow, holy shit, like that's to a T. That's what I'm exactly like. And that's why I need to do more work on it, I think, because it's the one that's going to lead me. And one of the quotes that I had from the lady who did mine a few years ago, she said, I have to follow my bliss because I'm emotional. So like, I've got to feel into things. And that's so me. Because if I don't, I start, you know, because I'm very impulsive. So I find myself doing things on a whim just because I want to, because it's life. And I think, oh, you only got one life and I don't want to miss out. So that's definitely to do with my human design, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there are all different types of languages, right? But they're all just external languages. That's it. They're all just outside of us that hopefully give us doorways into parts of ourselves, because without language, we can't really access these things. We can't really understand them. And human design is definitely a very specific language. But having said that, I mean, I still use a lot of tools, even as a human design expert and a human design teacher. I still use a lot of languages outside human design, because sometimes I want that really zoomed out view. Like I want to be like, wow, okay, how does who I am energetically fit in with what's going on in the collective, right? Sometimes it's not great to be so self-focused. But I'm also several years into my human design, and you know, those first few years, it was just this kind of constant experience of, whoa, I had a very similar experience to you. Like, I resonate with parts of myself with all of these other languages. Like some of them kind of feel a little bit correct, but it does feel generic and it doesn't feel like it's fully capturing me. And I just thought I was weird. I just thought I kind of couldn't fit the boxes. And coming into human design, it was kind of one domino after the other of like, whoa, that is exactly me. And that's exactly me. And that's exactly me. And recognizing that I and you and anybody else, we're never identically replicated. Never, ever identically replicated. And I think that's what human design captures so well, is that it comes from this baseline of you as a soul chose this. Every single element of your design, and we've got layers and layers and layers of your design, you know, they can go really, really deep. You chose it all. You wanted every single element of what you've got, and you also wanted every single element of what you don't have, because those are the places where you've got your conditioning and your wounds and your shadows, and you can do a lot of healing work. So I think it does take on this very kind of self-worth, self-value journey, because then it's like, well, why did I choose this for myself? I'm not inherently wrong. These things aren't shortcomings. These things aren't failings. These things aren't weaknesses. I wanted them specifically. So why did I want them? And what can I discover about myself in that process? So it's a very beautifully healing journey.
Yeah, I feel like that's like before you come down to earth, when you're sorting out, because have you watched the Disney movie Soul?
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. Like when I watched that, I was separated from Chris, and it was when it first came out. And I remember I just cried because I really resonated with it, because my partner's older than me and I felt like he had to come to earth before me. And that when she leaves to come down to earth, I was like, that's me. I was saying bye to you and you came to earth. But I just feel like that it resonated with it, because I feel like that's what happens, is like you go and choose your personality, you go and choose your traits and your strengths and your weaknesses, because you need to be able to have weaknesses to grow and to shift and to change. And like with your human design, like I always say this to everybody, like we're all so different blueprint, fingerprints, different voice, different frequency of voice, different skin color, like we're so different. And that's why, we talked about racism the other week, about we're all the same, we're made up of the same stuff, like blood, bones, muscles, like. So I just think it's bizarre, but with human design, I resonate with that because, I just think of it like as your DNA. Like human design for me is your DNA. It's what makes you tick, what makes you get up of a morning, what makes you, want to exist on this planet. So it's interesting because when my niece was born, I was kind of doing her human design straight away, because when she was born, I was like, and I need to remember what she is. I think she's a generator like me. Yeah, I think she's, but that's like, you must have done that when you first started doing human design. You're doing all your family and you're doing your partner and
God. Yeah. I know the human design of every single person in my life, because it helps me love them. Yeah. It helps me love them because I know that I have to love those people in a very specific way that they are designed to be loved. And it has just a really incredible way of enriching your relationships.
It does, because you start to figure out why they're the way they are. And with human design too, like it does tell you about things to watch out for and things to, like, it's not all the positives, because you need to be able to just, one thing with human design with me, it came at the right time because I was ready to hear the things that not were wrong with me, that's the wrong way of saying it, but the things that I need to watch out for, like weaknesses, and because we all have them, and being able to just be vulnerable and sit with them and work through them and know that they're going to crop up, because the weaknesses then kind of move into the fears. And that's probably what I've been going through. That's why I think I've got this call to look back at my human design, because of the leveling up I did this week, with money blocks and things like that. But you must do a lot of stuff with your human design women. Do you work with men as well, or just women?
Yeah. No, I work with all genders. Yep.
Good. Yeah. So just thinking, with your clients, you must work with blocks like that, limiting beliefs, money blocks and things like that, especially when it comes to human design for like moving forward in their life. Yeah.
Yeah, always. I mean, I think as soon as I stepped into using spirituality and energetics in my work, I was doing that. And that was even before, I had any of the human design language, because it became really apparent to me going through my last business that things can externally be very kind of in place, right? Like I strategically had a great business. All of the pillars of the business were there. Even the money of the business was there. We bought a business out of bankruptcy and were able to turn it over to just over $2 million annual turnover by the second year. So like all those hallmarks of business were like, it's great. It's really, really great. But my mindset and my energy were terrible. I mean, I was in a constant state of fear and scarcity that I mean, kind of on those fundamentals of like, the law of attraction, super simplified version of manifesting. That's what manifested in my space. That's what came in. I had very difficult relationships. I had, previous owners and investors and suppliers literally trying to steal money, trying to hack our bank account and take money and make threats and demands and extortion and blackmail. It was really extreme. And coming out of that, I really had to have a reckoning with myself to see what role did I play in that, because all my actions were strategically correct, but my energy and my mindset were not. And so I was a player in that whole game. So I really just think that we're kind of at this point globally now as humanity where we've evolved to the point where we see that mindset, limiting beliefs, energetics, emotions, whatever kind of label you want to put on that, they're completely integrative. So any experience that you're having, like we have lived in this whole era for hundreds of years where we think that the brain and the body are separate, and they're not. They're just not. And now we're seeing that, this is all part of one process. And so I actually can't move forward in my life until I work out my shit, like until I figure out what my wounds are and where my conditioning is and what my shadow is and what belief systems I'm operating on. So it's really nice for me to see that evolution over the last kind of 5 to 6 years in the online space, because I've been able to see how normalized it is now. And when I was doing spiritual business coaching work, I mean, that was 90% of the work. It's 90% energy, 10% strategy. And yeah, certainly in human design now, I do the same stuff, but it's just through a different language, because now it's human design gives me the availability to do that really individualized and really specifically.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, really. There's so many things we can look at, isn't there, like out in our faces about, you know, this, and this. And I think knowing my human design definitely gave me a sense of self, like a sense of, oh, that makes sense, you know, that I could link things together. But I think as well, like I just mentioned earlier, like there's a lot more to you as well, you know, like there's in like what you can move into when you let these limiting beliefs, you know, kind of, you know, you work through your limiting beliefs. Because I thought I was doing great, and then obviously then I asked for the up level. I asked to be able to reach more people and help more people, and then, you know, with that comes, you know, challenges, as you said. So it was quite interesting how it happened, you know, with me charging my worth and what I can do for someone. I think people listening as well, you know, it all comes down to the fact we all want money. What person on the planet doesn't want wealth in whatever form that looks like to them? And I sat with that, and that's what I was saying to you before. Like, do you think Wayne sat there with his manager and said, oh, you know, you're going to get paid X amount, you know, a six figure to be on this stage to talk to these people for 2 or 3 hours? Do you think he sat there and thought, oh, I don't feel worthy of that money, I should just charge less? Like, no, he didn't, because he knew how much of an impact he was making on someone's life. So I was like I mentioned Oprah, because she's a billionaire now, but like, you know, just in general, of these spiritual people that we look up to, that are in our space, that we follow and that inspire us, they were where I was at some point, you know, working through their limiting beliefs and working through the blocks around, you know, what was available to them. And that, you know, and it just stuck in my head what Amanda Francis said. And this is to do with human design and manifesting, because I'll get to that in a sec about the manifesting thing. But Amanda, you know, she said, money doesn't give a shit if you're a good or a bad person. And I was like, it's so true. Like this $50 note going, you've been bad today, you're not allowed to, you know, it's like, that's what I thought. And that comes from religion too, doesn't it? Because I grew up as a Catholic. So I always thought, oh, I can't be a bad person because I'll receive bad things. And that's not to say, like, you know, karma doesn't work like that. But I just kept thinking, if I was this good, innocent, good girl, that would, you know, elevate my, you know. But then I thought, well, no, I can use that good, loving energy to manifest the things I want, because I can keep myself in that higher energy. So what's interesting is, because I was kind of like that, you're a manifestor, as in a human design, you're a manifestor. So I'm a generator, and I want people to realize, because I wasn't confused about it, but I thought, I wonder if that's because you're not a better manifestor than me, but because you're a manifestor, I thought, is that because you're meant to lead people to help them manifest more? So I kind of thought, does that mean, you know, you've got a passion or a purpose around helping people manifest? And some people do, you know, some people might do, but, you know, the difference between the two, like, what was that? How could you explain that to someone who was kind of asking that question?
Yeah, well, I mean, the very top layer of human design, when you come in, the first thing you're going to discover about yourself is your energy type. It's probably the only slightly more generic thing about human design, but most people find a lot of resonance with it. So we have our generators. That's our most dominant type. That's you. So they're about 37%, 38% of society. And like every energy type has a role. We all play a role, and it all comes harmoniously together. So our generators really are here to get excited about stuff, and then you go and build it. You create it. You have this really creative response that says, I'm lit up by this, like this whole idea of sacral energy. That is our generators to a T. You guys are sunlight, right? You're like, I am here. I love it. This is lighting me up. I'm going to build it, and I'm going to keep going at it and at it and at it and at it until I master this thing, right? So there's this kind of sustainability in your energy. Then we have manifesting generators, which are at about 30% So together, our generators and our manifesting generators make 70% of society. So you guys really are the bulk of society. You're the most predominant energy out there. Manifesting generators are like generators, except on steroids. So these are our people that they multitask. So they want to create. They get that, like, oh, I'm lit up and I want to build this thing and I want to create it and it's so amazing. But they want to do that super fast and they want to do multiple things at once, and then they're going to get bored with it quickly and they'll move on to the next lot of things. So like manifesting generators really are the people who ultimately are kind of responsible for this idea that we have that like you should be able to do 25 different things in a given day, because they can and they love it. Whereas the rest of us are like, that's way too much. Like I'm burnt out. I can't even deal with that. Yeah. Then we have our projectors. They're at about 20%. Our projectors are really the people who are here to be guides and teachers. They want to guide things into existence. They want to help. We have a lot of politicians are projectors. A lot of people in the education industry, almost exclusively the whole coaching industry online is projectors. It's just like flooded with projectors because they see things in detail and they want to help. They want to help you. They see you and they want to help you. Then we have reflectors who are less than 1%, super duper rare. And our reflectors are like really wise sages. Energetically, they're fully open and they mirror. They just reflect everything back. And so they feel everything deeply. They process it over a very long period of time. And then they come out and say, hey, here's what we need to know about this. Because I've felt everything and I've thought of everything and I've healed everything through this. So here's where we need to go with this. And then, of course, there's manifestors, which is my energy type. We're at about 9%. The reason that we're called manifestors is because our role here is to be initiators. We're the catalysts, right? So everything that has ever been created or commenced has come from a manifestor. It's been a manifestor. So cool examples of manifestors at the moment, maybe not cool, intriguing examples, is that with the European war that we've got going on at the moment between Russia and Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky is a manifestor, so is Putin. They're both manifestors heading off against each other. So you can really see how that ability to initiate things, to commence things, to start things and have a massive impact on people, places, history, that can be used in a really horrific way. And it can also be used in a really powerful healing way. And unfortunately, like we've got a lot of manifestors through history who did it badly. Adolf Hitler, also a manifestor, because manifestors as an energy type have this auric quality. We're the only ones with a closed energy. We have a closed aura. So we exist behind, like often people are like, oh, I can't read you. Of course you can't. Because I'm behind a wall. I'm behind an energetic wall, and what you respond to is what I let you see. That's what I make available for you, and you will either be magnetized to that, right? You'll love it. You'll be so into it. You'll like, oh my gosh, I'm so activated. I'm so initiated, and all this stuff is shifting in my life. Or you'll be repelled because you'll be like, way too much. Can't deal. Too activating. Not available for that. Don't want to be here. So the difference really between manifestors as an energy type in human design and manifesting is kind of nuanced, right? Like we're called manifestors because we have this energetic makeup. We have this defined motorized throat within our body that when we talk, we're initiating. We are making things physically happen when we speak. So when we speak out loud and we say, this is what I want, like, hey, I want you to bring me a cup of coffee, right? We're actually then activating that energetic experience in the environment around us. And so somebody receives that and goes, oh, cool. I think I'll take you a cup of coffee, right? So we're kind of like making these things happen for us. And essentially, that's what manifesting is. Yeah. Manifesting at its most absolute basic level is an energetic response. It says, I am in this energetic frequency and therefore I am attracting the same energetic frequency and I manifest that, right? In air quotes. I manifest that into my life. So I think it's challenging for people to see the difference because we do have a lot of that social narrative around like manifesting from The Secret, very much like manifesting is you think it, therefore it happens. That's a very watered down version. Yeah. Manifesting is not I think it, therefore I receive it. Manifesting is I am it energetically, therefore I magnetically attract that same thing. And so you might find that if you have a manifestor in human design in your life, that when you are around them and they are sharing their energy with you, shit happens. Like things move, things get activated. And so, yeah, traditionally as manifestors, we do manifest easily and we manifest quickly because every time we speak, we're making it happen. But that also means we have a lot of wounds around speaking. So, always flip sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And I think as well, like it's like you said, you speak things into this existence, so you need to be kind of watchful of how your language is too as well. Like that's why I think people helping people in human design like you're doing with your community is needed, because some people can like literally have a human design reading, come away and go great, and then go, oh crap, like where do I go from now, and how do I access this, and how do I process this? But I think as well, like for me, like with everything that you do, like I mentioned earlier, astrology, human design, life purpose numbers, whatever it is, the disclaimer I think we should put on it is that, as you explore more of yourself, you are opening up doorways to yourself. So it's to remember that, you are going to have things that are going to challenge you, that you're going to have things that come up for you that, aren't, will be great, will be sad, all these different emotions may come up because you are kind of, I feel like when you get human design done, you unlock something. It's like your human design goes, yay, she's done it. Like she knows what we are now, and she's connected to it. I think like sometimes that's what I feel with human design. It was kind of for me a big pivotal moment in my spirituality where I thought, oh, I kind of get more of who I am now. And it was kind of interesting for that reason, but with the disclaimer of whatever kind of thing you go down is just remember that the things will come up around it too, because you are up leveling when you kind of have those readings done.
Yeah, we don't get expansion without moving through what has been previously stopping you from expanding, right? There's a reason that we don't like every day just wake up kind of as this new expanded healed version of ourselves, because it's this energetic polarity, light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. For every power, there is also shadow. For every healing, there is also conditioning and wounding, right? And we have to be willing and available to look at that stuff and experience the discomfort of it in order to then move through it and have that like breakthrough on the other side.
Yeah. What is something you're going, what's happening in your life right now that you want to share? Is there anything going on in your life that you just feel like you want to say, like, you want to share with the listeners?
Oh, sure. God, I'm always going through something. There's always something happening. We just came through a pretty crazy retrograde season. And like, I'm not somebody who is super into the language of astrology, but I've found it more and more fascinating over the last couple of years, how big an impact like planetary placements have had on how we've been feeling as a collective. And we've just come through a 2-month period where we've had 6 planets in retrograde. And so a lot of stuff has just been backwards. It's like, nope, turn around, go back to that old story, go back to that old wound, go back to that old fear. And this kind of sense of like, but I'm stuck. I can't move forward. I can't make a decision. I can't get traction or make anything work. And so for me, the last couple of months have been surprisingly like really revisiting some old money story stuff that has come up again, and journeying through into a new identity of money. And of course that means a physical representation, so like a new level of income in my business, but also like, who am I as an individual with this amount of money? And is that safe to be that person, or will I be rejected, or is that greedy? Is that asking too much? Do I have integrity in holding that much money? And the other thing that's come up heaps is relationships. I've been really going back through just a lot of like old relationships, friendships, business partnerships, romantic relationships that, broke down in the past and really hurt me. And perhaps I didn't unlock all of the lessons from those things during that time. And that has meant that over the past couple of months, there's been some current relationships in my life that have moved on. They've dissolved, and they've kind of dismantled and disappeared from my life. So I think really like August and September have been pretty brutal for most people. Yeah. And definitely the themes of relationship and money seem to be a pattern that's occurring. And I'm not exempt from that. Yeah, I was very much part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned like old relationships and friendships, because I've had that as well. Like I've been wanting to reach out to some old friendships that I haven't spoke to for years, like just to see how they're doing. And then just, like just to I was doing an exercise the other day about, who haven't you forgiven yet? And I thought, I've not asked myself that question for a while. And, what haven't you forgiven yourself for? And you think, you have kind of done most of it, and you sit with it, and then something comes up and you go, oh, I forgot about that thing, or, I forgot about that person. And it's good to do those things, because more and more comes up that you forget about, and they just kind of come up randomly, and you think, right, okay, work through that. So that makes sense with me with the relationships as well. And with the money, I think that's something a lot of people are going through. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, what person doesn't want to be wealthy?
Yeah, well, it's our social currency. So money, I mean, we've very much had like this story about money being evil. And I think that we're journeying through a place of understanding that that's not true strictly, right? That money is the necessary currency. It's how we live. It's how we exchange. It's how we expand. And that means that it's available to be used in really bad ways, which that's what we have. I mean, we have capitalism, like money is used in really atrocious ways by some people. So I think that we're letting go of a lot of shame around money and coming into a new relationship with it.
Yeah. And I think it's needed for people, because as you said, if the more richer you get, you're going to be, mirroring back to people's fears and wounds, and then they're going to project onto you. And that's kind of what's going to happen. And it's just to be gentle with yourself and work through those limiting beliefs as they come up, because they've come up for me. They've come up for me, and I stood my ground in a loving way, and explained and was vulnerable. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do with limiting beliefs and blocks, because people love that about anyone being vulnerable and authentic, because it's more relatable.
Yeah, it's energetic sovereignty. I think that's what we're learning individually, all as humans. Certainly those of us who have been on a spiritual journey for a while, we're learning this kind of reclamation of our energetic sovereignty to say, what do my boundaries need to be? And where do I need to hold myself energetically? Where do I need to be open energetically? Where do I need to release some things? Where do I need to move into some things? And yeah, it's really fascinating to watch that kind of stuff play out on places like social media, right? Yeah. Where we're able to have these conversations, and there is this removal of filters. And so people will say really awful things, but it's a mirror. It's always a reflective mirror that gives you an opportunity to say, all right, well, does my energy require this boundary that I just put in place? Yes or no? Let me reinforce it then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. So is there anything else you want to talk about with human design before I ask you your last 3 questions?
No, I'm good. If there's anything else you want to know, ask me, but I'm happy to move on.
No, I'm interested to I'll probably get a reading done with you, I think, because I'll just be interested to get your take on it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And obviously anyone who is listening, reach out to Holly to have a human design done, because it is definitely something you need in your toolbox to have as a, let me just check who I am again. Let me just check on my notes, because I do that all the time. So as always, my listeners know that I ask these 3 questions at the end of every episode with a person. The first question is, if you had a magic wand, how would you use it to save our world?
Oh, you told me you were going to ask these questions. Okay. I think that the revolution exists in understanding ourselves. If I could make it available to every single person to understand at least some aspect of themselves that they can heal and they can step into ownership of, I think we'd have a really radical transformation globally.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a really good one. What are 3 things people can do right now to raise their consciousness?
Always look at your patterns. Always. Like, where am I looping in my life? Where are these things that keep coming up? Is it like in my money? Is it in my relationships? Is it in my work? Is it in my health? Is it like what kind of keeps coming back up into your space? Because that's the thing that's saying, look at me, like, look at me now. We have the ability to do something about this now because I'm being aware of it. So that's, awareness is always that first step to consciousness, I think. The second thing would then be taking some action on that to move it, right? What can you do to change that pattern? If you can catch yourself in that pattern in the moment, how can you move to a different pattern? And this can be something as simple as, like, I recently made a new friend and we were having a conversation about this, that he was saying, you know, I work too hard. I've always kind of been too involved in my work, and that has created problems because then my life goes out of balance, and I'm doing that again. Like, I've just moved industries and here I am doing the same pattern again. And, you know, the point is, like, catch yourself. Can you see yourself doing that in the moment? Great. Move to a different behavior. Try a different one. Just experiment. If you're catching yourself in the moment saying, oh, wow, I'm actually caring too much about my job. Like, I'm placing too much of an expectation on myself here. What does it look like to do the opposite? How can I move away from that? Can I take a step back? Can I step out and, like, have a coffee or go for a walk or communicate my needs or take a day off or whatever that may be? And thirdly, I think, is, like, start researching tools. There are just so many tools, and the internet makes everything exquisitely available instantaneously. Like, do a meditation, try breath work, go to a yoga class, like, dive on in and go to a crazy spiritual retreat if you want. Look at human design, look at astrology, look at numerology. All of these things are going to be tools, and something's going to resonate with you and other things won't. So just try, just experiment. And if it doesn't feel good to you, discard it and move it on, because there are hundreds and hundreds available.
Yeah. Build your spiritual toolbox up. I always say that because it's just amazing to have for yourself and for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So your third question is, if you had the whole world at your attention right now, what would you say to them?
I am an eternal optimist. I am, like, very much heavily motivated by hope. And I truly, truly do believe that love is what changes everything. So if you can find love in something, can you love yourself in a really authentic and true way? Can you love someone else in your life in a really authentic and true way? Can you love a place, you know, or a thing or a community? Where can you inject love? Because that is just the most transformative energy that we have available to us. And it just, I mean, could you imagine what the world would look like if we were all just focused on love? Really, that would just be so
that's
remarkable.
what we all seek. That's what we all desire deep down, to be loved, because that's what we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. It's always about love. It's quite a few people, like, everyone's answers are different, but it always comes back to love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what we're wired for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Thanks for those answers. So if anyone was to reach out to you, Holly, how are they best to find you?
If you are wanting to get into human design, you can follow me at the Manifestor community. So obviously I specialize in the Manifestor energy type. We got a lot of manifestors there, but we also have people who know manifestors, right? Like, we've got human design experts who want to, like, basically look at us like lab rats. We've got people who are partnered to manifestors. They have kids that are manifestors, friends that are manifestors. So feel free to come on over, even if you're not a manifestor. And the latest work that I have been doing is all about business. So really looking at just some very grounded, direct, clear, energetic business strategy. And that's over at I Am Holly Herbig. So they're kind of the two lanes that I'm sitting in at the moment.
Yeah, love that. And I've followed you, so I'm going to be looking at all your stuff and following you now to see what other magic you put out into the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your time today, and for everyone who's been listening. I hope you took some valuable information and tips and tricks from us both. And if you want to reach out to Holly, just please reach out to her, follow her community. Send her a message if you resonated. If you've got any other questions, send her an email. I'm sure she'll be happy to respond. And as always, please leave a 5-star review and share it with your friends and family. And I'm just sending you all that love in the universe, because that's what you deserve and that's what we all want. And I'm going to say bye, and thanks again, Holly.
Amazing. Thanks, Pippa.
You're welcome.